Hi, everyone. I'm Barbara Beck, and I'm so happy you tuned in today to Welcome Home. We have another great program for you. We love to have a theme on each Welcome Home show that helps us share Christ in compelling ways. Well, today's theme is adoption, and we have a guest on the program who has a story to tell you that will really leave you breathless. Tanya and Mark Nogler have 4 biological teenage sons, and they recently adopted. Are you ready for this? 4 siblings under the age of 12 to add to their family. That's 8 kids, from 4 kids to 8 kids, a family of 10 with mom and dad. Well, I can't wait for us to talk to this super mom and hear all of her stories and reasons for complicating her life. We all know parents who have adopted. I mean, it's almost commonplace today for churches to encourage their members to take care of orphans and widows. That's scriptural. But have we taken it to the cultural extreme when you almost feel peer pressure to adopt and follow this mandate? Well, I'm sure the current ladies have a lot to say about this very subject. So, welcome, current ladies.
Hi.
Thanks for being here with us today. Are you all feeling some of that pressure in your individual circles of friends and influence that, you ought to be adopting? Why are you not adopting? Do you feel that at all?
Not so much. I mean, we go to a church that's pretty progressive, and there are a lot of families that have adopted internationally, and it's so neat to see because you just see these families with kids from everywhere, such diversity, and I love that. But I think the thing that I love the most is that each of these families has heeded the call to obedience from the Lord. And I think that's the integral part here, is that if the Lord is calling you to adopt, then it's right. But I think there's plenty of families that he's not calling to adopt, and that's okay too. I feel like we shouldn't feel the pressure to adopt, just like we shouldn't feel the pressure to be involved in this or be involved in that. I think it's all about listening to what the Lord has to say for where he wants you and what he wants in our lives at that point in time.
You know, we became foster parents, y'all remember,
Yeah.
And it took us about 9 months to go, really probably close to a year, to get licensed to become foster parents. And we had 3 different children in our home, and it was awesome. And it was really, but it was hard. And after our third child, this little boy, we sat down as a family, and my daughter was getting ready to start high school, and my son was starting middle school, and they just said, for now, we'd rather not do it anymore. And so I think you really just have to listen to the Lord and listen to your family. What is right for your family? So I know that we will actually probably do it again and have other kids into our home, especially now that we're going to a bigger home. Part of our problem was that we only had 3 bedrooms, and so my son was having to share a bedroom. But you just have to talk to the Lord about it and not do, like you said earlier, comparison. Just don't compare. Comparison is the enemy of contentment. So just do what's right for you and your family, and with Lord's guidance.
I thought this was an interesting statistic that I looked up. It said in the U.S., 397,122 children are living without permanent families. Wow. That's a lot of children that need love. And so, again, like we've been saying, you have to be led by the Lord. And I think that's something that Jeff and I have, honestly, we always talked about. And when we first got married, we were young. We're like, we're going to have 4 children. We're going to have a house full of kids. And then we ended up waiting 5 years to start our family. And now we have our boy and our girl. And, the $1 million question is, so are you guys going to have more? And, God's just put this contentment in our heart for our son and daughter. But it's been something that we have always thought of as we've traveled the world, and even just seeing, we worked with youth. When we first got married, we were ministering to youth every Friday night, and we literally had this heart. I mean, we would stay up till 2, 3 o'clock in the morning, making sure these kids were ministered to. And we knew when they went home, they went to such a bad situation, or some of them really were getting kicked out of their homes. So, it's something for us personally we're praying about, and I think if with everything, it's God's timing, and not that the timing is now, but I think you really have to be informed and educated and prepared. And I think it was really cool that you all took the time to listen to your children's heart, your biological children, and not just kick them to the curb and said, this is what we're doing, but you put their heart's desire, in the forefront. And so I think it's something you really have to be very prayerful entering into, and especially this lady coming up, hearing her story. I mean, I can't imagine the dynamic from going from 4 4 is a lot. You know, my brother-in-law, they have 4 girls under 8, and that is a wild dynamic in their home. And then to add 4 on top of it is amazing.
Well, and they're teenagers too, you know, and those are teenage boys. And do they really want to add 4 more kids to that mix?
Wow.
And that's going to, you know, in a lot of ways, I'm sure it displaces teenagers. I can't wait to hear what all she has to say about how those kids felt about adding those 4. That's a great point.
And financially, too.
Yes.
But I
my
will
Lord.
say that I listen to Focus on the Family a lot, and they are actually putting out a push for people to adopt. And there is a push, like you said, because they say if every Christian home in America would adopt a child, I mean, it would be ended. I mean, it would be over.
Well, do you feel that pressure
You know,
to do that in your
it's
home?
funny. I don't feel the pressure. Sometimes I've got young ones still at this age, and just from in my own personal heart, I don't feel like the timing is quite yet. But I will tell you, when I was single, because I didn't get married till I was 32, and to be a mother was really important. I thought, I just don't want to waste myself here if I have a lot of love to give. I actually went and tried to become a foster parent, but because I traveled, you know, doing ministry, they wouldn't allow me to do it. But the need is so great. I was just talking with my girlfriend last night who works as a social worker, and she said, if you really knew what these kids' home lives are like,
And that's why.
it would really do something in your heart.
And that's why the training is so important. I think that if you are thinking about adoption, make sure that you get the proper Christian counseling and the studies that are going on for what's gone with these kids that have been, what they've been through. We did role playing with our children before. I mean, it's just super important that you really, you know, kind of do your homework and do what you need
Because
to.
really, who is equipped to be able to know how to counsel kids who have been through
That's
what some
right.
of these kids have been through?
That's right.
I mean, very few of us really would even, I wouldn't know how to deal with
It's
some of those
shocking,
problems.
really.
Yeah. And talk about the difference between domestic adoptions. I think your statistic, Courtney, might have had to do with domestic
Yeah,
here,
US.
300 something, almost half
There's
a
a lot of
million
people are
kids
thinking of
in the United States.
overseas.
But then
Yeah.
there are international adoptions also, which I know Heidi and some of your friends have done as well. And that adds another component, even though we all want to be fair-minded, we don't want to have any prejudices in our lives, there are people out there who do. And so when you bring an African-American child into a mix, into a white home or vice versa, that creates a whole other kind of a dynamic that needs to be dealt with. So I think it's very hard.
But I think adoption is a great thing. I mean, Christ represented that the best, that we've been adopted in to
Yes.
His. I mean, I love it.
Right.
How He, you know, I heard somebody say it the other day that we are all family because we share the same blood, and that's the blood of Jesus. And to me, it's powerful. And so I think, you know, even if I can say this, it's just even beginning to love on people who maybe it's not a real adoption, but it's taken in kids and our friends' children, and being that light and that love, because some of them are going home, and it's really sad when you hear people talk. It's not good family atmosphere. You know, there's a lot of drinking, there's a lot of yelling. It's just not a safe place. And so when we can bring these children and these kids and these teenagers in our home and maybe be the aroma of Christ and be that unconditional love. I call it being Jesus with skin. You know, that's what it's really
But
about.
that's what the Bible mandates, you know, that I said at the opening, that we are to take care of widows and orphans. And that doesn't necessarily mean that we adopt them legally and bring them into our home, but we certainly need to be mindful of those people.
Well, there's so many verses in the Bible with that social
Yeah.
justice emphasis, which I love. One of my favorites is from Isaiah 1:17, and it says, "Learn to do good, seek justice, help the oppressed, defend the cause of orphans, fight for the rights of widows." And I love that because even if we're not adopting somebody into our home to live permanently, we can help children, we can help widows, we can help people that are the have-nots, which really is what.
So how do we do that? How do we do it? We say, oh yeah, we're going to help all these people. What do we do tangibly?
Well, I think anyway, I mean, the ways that you were talking about, like, I've got a really good friend who has loved on a little boy at the elementary school where her son is. The little boy is transient. He goes from house to house. He moves. His mom is doing the best that she can do. Oftentimes she's living out of her car. And my friend has just taken it upon herself to be that safe home for that little boy. He wants to come over all the time. She feeds him. She loves on him, but she also respects the wishes of the mom, and she's worked with the mom. And I think that's just a great example of how individually this friend is not changing changing the world by helping one child, but she is changing that child's life.
But you don't know what that child's going to grow up and do in life. Maybe she will affect him or her so much that then he wants to go up and open a home for children or whatever. We don't know. And you know, we don't know who we're touching.
Well, and don't you ever wonder, I think of this really quite often, who ministered to Billy Graham when he was a little boy? Besides his parents, you don't ever know what this little guy, he could be the next Billy Graham that's out there affecting the world for Christ. What other verses do you all have that are good?
I've got one. Matthew 18:5. Whoever receives such one child in my name receives me. I mean, think about how cool that is.
This one comes from Ephesians 1:5, and it says, He predestined us for adoption as sons through Jesus Christ, according to the purpose of His will. And when we realize we're all adopted, like you said, we have different mamas, but we've got the same daddy. And I mean, I believe that's the heart of the Father to adopt. So whatever way, shape, or form that we do that, whether it's through legal adoption, fostering, or even just taking in, you know, maybe one of our children's friends that comes from a rough situation, there's always an opportunity to extend the Father's love in our community.
And one visual that I love that I want to say more to my kids, but that has really helped me, is that we're all sons and daughters of the King. Yes. And I love thinking about that. And I want to instill that in my kids or in my children's friends, that they are sons and daughters of the King with a crown on. And they are royalty. And so we need to live like royalty by loving other people and caring for other people.
Well, because you're instilling worth. And that's what the girl was telling me the other day. She said when you walk in these homes and people are doing, it's a lot of the grandparents that are raising the children, but the self-esteems are just so down because of what they see. And I think there's people out there who are going through that right now, that their self-esteems, and if they can realize what you just said, that you are sons and daughters of the Almighty God, that He has adopted you in. And I love the scripture, Galatians 4:5-7, to redeem those who were under law so that we might receive adoption as sons. And I love this part. He says that we are crying, Abba, Father, that we now have a daddy. We are not fatherless. We have a daddy and we are loved.
I love that. That's great. And I can't wait to hear what Tanya Nagler has to say about this brand new home that she has with 8 children. Her interview is coming up. Can't wait for you to hear it. I can't wait to be a part of it. So stay with us. We'll be right back. Well, adoption is something that we love to talk about here at Good Life 45, because when you talk about hope, there are plenty of people out there. They may be adoptive mothers, they may be biological moms, people who are without hope. And we're going to talk to someone today who has a story that's going to offer you lots and lots of hope and encouragement. You know her husband, Mark Nagler, has been one of our great friends here at Good Life 45. And I guess, Tanya, you've been a great friend as well. Why am I just saying Mark Nagler? Yes. It's also Tanya Nagler, who is a great friend. Mommy Nogs, who has done cooking for us before in the past. And so we are just so honored to have you here with us today. Thank you for being willing to tell your story, because you got a great big story.
Yes, it got bigger.
Yes, it did. First of all, tell us about your biological family.
Okay, so Mark and I have been married almost 20 years, and we have 4 biological children, 18 and under.
All boys.
All boys. Yes, I was
handsome boys.
Yes, and I was super boy mom, you know.
Yes.
And then a few years ago, we really started talking about adoption and pursuing, you know, that avenue to expand our family and to honor God's word for caring for the orphans.
Right, which we're all called to do.
Yes.
You so beautifully told me before we went on the air. We are called to tend to widows and orphans,
yes,
right?
Yes, we are. And so we started the process with maybe fostering to adopt. And about 3 weeks into class for the fostering to adopt, Mark said, you know, I don't think that this is what we should do. I think we should just adopt. So we went ahead and took the classes. There's about 8 classes you take.
Were you okay with that right away?
Yes.
Yes?
I actually didn't want to foster either.
Oh, you wanted to
but
adopt.
We thought it was the best avenue for adoption, was to go through and foster first. And there's a huge need for foster families too, equally as much of a need for adoptive families. So, you know, either way, we felt like God was going to use us. So we gently bowed out of the foster class and started the adoption classes about 6 months later.
And how long did it take you to go through adoption classes? This is through the state of Florida, by the way.
Yes, through the state, and it's free, and they provide, you know, all the curriculum and the teachers and stuff. It's by county, and so ours was an 9 week, class, and I do believe now it's 8 weeks.
Okay.
So it's a real short commitment. It's about 2 hours a night once a week.
And they do
for
a
8
home
weeks.
study. They look at your
Yes.
home. They look at your relationship,
Yes.
and they determine whether or not you qualify.
Yes, and they interviewed our boys.
Oh, they did?
Yeah, it was really cute, and asked them questions, and so they were so excited
Yeah,
about.
kids can have a lot more insight sometimes than
Yes.
even we do as the parents.
Yes, and they can say the darndest things.
Yes, they can. Yes, they can.
Yes. So
Well, were all 4 boys okay with you bringing in? Because I know at one point you and I were talking about that after having 4 boys, you kind of wanted them to have a sister.
Yes.
Were they okay with having a new child brought into their home?
yes,
Every one of them, all 4.
of our boys were totally on board with adopting, and they didn't care if we adopted 1 or however many. And initially, we were only looking at 1 or 2 to adopt,
Right.
possibly
Yes.
3. And so that's not how it came to be. So now we have 4 adopted children, 4 biological children.
That is just crazy. I remember when I first heard that, Tanya, and I said, oh no, Tanya Nother, what have you done to yourself?
Yes, what did I do?
4 biological sons.
Yes.
That's a big commitment anyway, and they're all still at home, by the way.
Yes.
You're a young mom. You and Marcus are young.
Yes.
And now you bring in 4
Yes.
more children into the mix. And how many weeks has this been so far?
We've been together full-time as a family 4 months.
For 4 months.
Yes.
So how has it been? Let's go through day 1. What was day 1 like when you got these 4 new kids?
So-
and by the way, you did finally get a girl.
Yes, 3 girls.
3 girls and one
Yes.
one more boy.
One more boy. And our boy, oh man, he's so, you don't even know he's amazing. Okay, so day 1 was a little different for us than maybe the typical adoption because we just came off of a 3 or 4 night visitation where the kids come and stay at the house and they're in their rooms and everybody's, in La La Land and we're having fun and we're eating out and it's just La La Land because you're getting
Sure.
to know each other and bond. So, and we went to court on Monday, so that's following the 3-night visitation. And we went to court and we spent the entire day at court. Really long day for the kids. And then they were court ordered to stay with us from that point on full time. So day 1 was a little chaotic because of court. Day 2 was kind of like a low from a high, even though
Yeah.
it was really long at court. And I mean, we were there like 6 hours. The kids were amazing. But there was some triggers, with trauma kids and kids from foster care. Usually there's trauma because that's why they're not with their parents.
Sure.
And so we had some triggers happen towards the end of court, and so that made the ride home was really difficult. Lots of tears, and they're confused because they're with their foster moms because they were all split up, and so they're with their foster moms 1 minute at court, and everyone gets along, and everything. But then all of a sudden now you're not going to see anybody anymore, and you're
Yeah.
moving, and so I would say the first week was very high, very low. We were either very good or just really a lot of tough situations or tough conversations.
And we want to talk about that, what
Yeah,
some of the
yeah.
traumas were. And you told me ahead of time you were
Yeah.
very open and honest and want to
Yeah.
be transparent about everything.
Yeah.
First, be sure our viewers know what the ages are of your 4 boys
Okay.
down to your new 4 children.
Sure thing. So our 4 boys are 18, 16, 14, 13. And our new children are girl 11, girl 10, boy 8, girl 7.
Okay.
Yeah.
So they're all over the place from
Yes.
7 all the way up to 18.
Yes.
8 kids.
Yes.
All
I
right,
know.
so-
the other day I was like, oh, I have 8 kids. Like it just hit me really
Yeah.
like 8 children.
Right.
And then I was normal again, but it was a moment I had to process.
Yeah. Okay,
The
now,
moment-
Tanya, you talk about trauma kids. These
Yes.
kids, tell us some of the things that obviously they've been in the foster care system. They've been separated from each other,
Yes.
you mentioned, and now they're
Yes.
all back together again. I mean,
Yes.
you can only imagine some of the trauma.
Yeah.
But what was their background like?
So our 4 in particular, not all of them had this, but our 4 in particular have had definitely sexual abuse, physical abuse, both. They were physically abused, and then they eyewitnessed a lot of abuse between the parents and other family members too. Very violent family, extended, and when they lived with their family.
Because they actually live with their family until, how long have they been in foster care?
They were in foster care for 3 years.
Okay, so they were old enough to be with their mom and their dad, their
Yes.
biological mom and dad,
Yes.
for quite some time.
Yes.
So they saw a lot of
And they
abuse.
remember everything.
And these were their all 4 children have the same biological mom and dad.
Yes.
That's amazing in and of
Yes.
itself,
Mhm.
right?
Yes. A lot of foster kids, you'll find, that they have like maybe 1 or 2 of
Sure.
the same parents, and
Right.
but they're half siblings of sorts. Yeah. So, and then a lot of neglect where they didn't eat, or they were taught how to steal so that they could have like literally like a piece of candy would be what they could eat if
What
they
would
could
they steal
it.
from? A grocery store or 7-Eleven?
Yes,
or,
yes.
Okay.
Like dollar stores and stuff
Okay.
like that.
And they
And
probably
then-
didn't think that that was wrong to do because it
No.
was survival,
Yes,
right?
yes, exactly. They a lot of their behaviors they know now as they're getting older was not right, and
Mm-hmm.
they don't do those things. But for a long time, that was all that they knew.
Sure.
And they really, a lot of times they make comments to us about life with us because they just didn't know it could ever be different.
Wow.
They'd never thought that for example, I cook dinner at night. And we
Yeah.
all eat dinner. Not maybe all of us at the table, but most of us. They just never thought ever that they would eat dinner at a table. They just never did that.
Where
ever.
would they eat? What would they just eat whenever they
They
could
would eat in the
get-
car. They were homeless a lot. They lived in a car and in women's shelters. And so.
But to eat with a family, to sit down as a family, they never even thought about
no.
that.
And they couldn't even do it in the beginning. They
What-
could not sit.
Right.
They didn't know how to use forks and spoons. They didn't know how to eat off their plate.
Will
And
they
so
listen to you? I mean,
Yes.
are you the disciplinarian or is Mark?
I'm the disciplinarian.
You're the disciplinarian.
Yes.
And were there some conflicts to begin with about when you would tell somebody to do something, to sit down, to eat with a fork or
Yeah.
whatever it was? Would they listen to you?
They did mostly listen.
Yeah?
However, because it's so hard to change patterns, change the only thing you've ever known for however many years, to change it all of a sudden now you can't eat on the ground, or we're not crawling around the table, or even walking around the house with food and drinks and they're just so happy to have food and drinks.
Yeah.
And so they did listen. Now you repeat yourself a lot. And so
Let's talk about the fact that, and I've been to your home. You have a beautiful home on a lake in
Thank you.
Claremont.
Yes.
But you are you don't work full time. Your husband
No.
works full time at Discovery Church. So you're in
Yes.
ministry, which means you're not making $200,000 a
Yes.
year to support 8 children.
Yes.
Every child, obviously, you don't have 8 or 9 bedrooms in your home.
Right.
How are you housing 8 children?
Yes. So we are renters, and so when we moved from a house that we were renting that we loved on a different lake, and we didn't move. We had a good relationship with that landlord, so we didn't move from that house to the house we're in now until we found the perfect house to house however many children we adopted. And so our rent is low because we were able to just
Good.
find the right place. I clip coupons. I grocery shop. I buy whatever meat's on sale. That's how I plan dinner. I pack school lunches. We don't buy school lunches. I feel so bad too that the kids are like, because in foster care they got free school
Right,
lunches.
right.
So they
And
say,
that's good
Mom,
food.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and they say, Mom, why can't we have pizza? Well, I don't have like $25 for pizza day on Friday because
Yeah.
that's like for all my children.
But why
So
can't they get free lunches at school?
Well, they're in private school.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, they're in private
Okay.
school. So.
Well, that's another thing. How are
Yeah.
you? I mean, if you don't mind me
Nope,
asking,
that's okay.
how are you affording private school?
We make monthly payments.
Okay.
Like a car payment.
Okay.
But for school.
Okay.
That's out. And then we
That's
have
amazing, Tanya.
Well, we qualify for scholarship through the state.
Okay.
Because there's so many of us.
Yeah.
And the income is not as much as the people. So.
Right, right.
So-
So you do get a little bit of assistance.
Yes.
But you're
Yeah.
also teaching them the value of $1, right?
Oh yes,
Yeah?
yes. When we first got them, they were super entitled, which is a little weird, but they felt very entitled to have everything that they wanted, everything they could have asked for. They thought we would just get them, and they thought we were so rich, which is so funny.
But you are rich to them compared to what
to
they
them,
came
we
out
are
of,
rich.
right?
Yes,
Yeah.
but we live on a very normal,
Right.
like middle class, low middle class, or low. I don't even know what we are now because there's so many.
But you
of us.
live on a budget and it's
We
very
live at-
stringent.
Yes, and we count every dollar.
Yeah.
And actually, one of the things that I tell people thinking about adopting is that you have to consider your finances, because what I didn't plan ahead for was that even though through the state adoption is free, so we don't have to pay for classes or court or anything like that.
Right.
But you do take on all the costs of driving them to and from counseling and from therapies and getting them plugged into things that help build their character and their confidence and their self-esteem. So we have them plugged into football and cheerleading and those things.
Those things cost money.
Are like whole house payments.
Yeah.
You know, so,
Right.
So those things I didn't think about, and I didn't think about like the electric bill going up, but that went up a lot.
Water bill?
The water
Yeah,
bill went up.
all of that.
Grocery bill.
Yeah.
I used to be so proud. The 6 of us, our grocery bill and toiletry bill was like $200 a week, which with coupons and stuff. I was so proud of that.
Sure.
$200.
That's crazy.
Awesome. That's
It
like
is.
with real food too, not just like Pop-Tarts or whatever.
Right.
And now we're like $400 a week, and I'm like,
week.
oh my
Wow.
gosh! And that's with coupons and
Yeah.
all the same tactics.
And never
So-
eating out, probably. Do you
we
rarely eat out?
Yes, very.
Yeah.
When we were doing visitations, we ate out because you have to because you're so far away from home.
Yeah.
But since we've come back, I think we've eaten out 2 times in 4 months.
Why do your boys, your biological boys, not resent this just a little teeny tiny bit? They're getting ready to go off to college. There are lots of expenses for boys that are teenagers that are in high school and are wanting to date and drive a car and have gas money and all that kind of thing.
Yep.
Do they not resent just a little teeny tiny bit?
There was a few times where 1 or 2 or 3 of them at different times have, I think, felt resentful.
Well, good, they're normal.
Because they're
right?
normal, yes. And because, you know, our selfishness doesn't always want to put somebody else before.
Yeah.
You know? And so, but it's been so good for them because they have thought through it and processed it. They've talked to us about stuff.
Good.
And it does cost a lot of money to have, to take 4 new children, now register them for school. That's a very costly. Just going back to school for 4 new children with backpacks and school supplies and shoes. And I want to say, too, a lot of people have done this thing called wraparound care. So where it's not a program or anything, but they've kind of wrapped around Mark and I like a hug in a sense and really helped us. My brother, he has come over with $100 here, $100 there and said, hey, take care of the kids' school shoes. I started crying. I was like, oh my gosh. And people from church and from friends from other churches, you know, the body as a whole, not just our church, bringing over a bed, bringing over sheets, bringing over new clothes. And so while it's costly, also when the body is wrapping around care in a sense, it helps with all of that.
You sent out a picture not too long ago of you and the 8 kids at Disney or Epcot. I can't remember which one. How do you afford to go to Disney?
Oh, that was such a blessing. I had a friend, actually a friend of Mark's from high school. His daughter cheers with our girls, and he said to me one day after cheer practice, he said, I wanted to let you know that I have Disney tickets I want to gift your family.
That's great.
And so that day we only had to pay for lunch one time and snacks one time. I think the whole day cost all 12 of us, because we had 2 extra kids with us, only cost us $100.
Wow.
Yeah.
But you know, Tanya, we all talk about Jehovah Jireh, our provider.
Such a provider.
And then to be able to see it firsthand like you do, and like other people that could come alongside you and say, yeah, we've seen that in our own family. We've seen it in our family where, you know, my husband had to raise his own support for so many years, and we weren't sure that the money would ever come in. Never once do his children beg bread, you know, is what the Bible says. We always get provided for. And it must be kind of neat and encouraging for you and your family to see God wrap his arms around your family, right?
It is. It's encouraging, and you know what it is? It builds faith in you, and then that faith builds someone else's faith.
Yeah.
So I got a card in the mail the other day that said, I don't even know this lady. And she got my address from a friend because she sent me Dunkin' Donuts coupons. So anyhow, and she just said, you're such an inspiration to us, and I don't even know you, and I just feel so inspired. Your faith has built my faith. And I thought, that's it.
Yeah.
That's the Christian walk, to encourage each other that by obedience and by faithfulness, you build then the faith of someone else, that they can do it too, or survive it, or get through
Tanya,
it.
I hate to ask you this question, but I think the answer is going to be yes.
Okay.
I wonder if there are more little nogglers out there that you would ever consider adopting.
You know, there are weeks when the answer would be no. There are also many, many weeks that I think there could be 2 more.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. So
what's the biggest challenge on a day-to-day basis that you're facing right now?
the biggest challenge is extending myself. So, for example, Another way someone has wrapped around care without knowing that they're doing that is she's texted me the last 3 mornings in a row and said, Ton, I'm going to pick up the boys from school. That frees me up because I go from one to the next, to the school, to school, to school, come home, to counseling, come home, to counseling, come home, to football, come home, to cheerleading, come home. So see, so that frees me up. So a big challenge is I'm literally only one person. I have the heart to do it, but I'm just one person. And so that's a big thing. Financially, that's a big thing to come to a steady, even groove where you can afford all these groceries and all these things that cost all this much money. And so, and I'm not saying, I'm not disappointed in that either. You know what I'm saying? I'm just saying that's something that would be, to think about. That's the best way I should say it. Sometimes a really hard day or a moment might be one or more being really insecure. And then something triggers something, and so it causes a meltdown for an extended period of time, or the whole family can kind of feel when there's tension between maybe one or two. And so, to constantly have the compassion come out and have the strength to
emotional strength
to just give it and then give it again and then give it again and really pour yourself into these little tiny humans that are so hurt and so broken. And so that's, that can be really tough too and really tiring. One of the things Mark and I have said many times is we didn't plan for how tired we'd be. So the first month, for real, we would put them to bed and we would go to bed and I couldn't even say goodnight. I would just conk out. And we laugh about it now because we're like, we never go to bed early. We go to bed like 2, 3 in the morning every night.
Wow.
And we're just late owls, Mark and I. And so we've always had time together alone every night for our whole marriage because we're late owls, and the kids go to bed at a decent time. And so when we got the new Nogglers, we were like conking out. I'm not kidding. I'm talking about my head would hit the pillow and Mark couldn't even say a word because I would be gone. So that was the first month about just being super real fatigued.
And you're not there anymore? You're not still that tired all the time?
I am still tired, but it's really eased up a big amount.
And why? Is it because you have superhuman strength now or because you figured out how to do it?
Yeah, you're in a routine. You anticipate things ahead of time, and so you can plan accordingly. So that really helps. Figuring out how much sleep that they need, because they're not used to even having
they're
a
not
routine.
used to structure, right? No structure, no routine.
No. And now that they allow themselves to sleep and really rest, we can really sleep and rest, but we don't have to do it now at 9 p.m. We can go to bed now at 11 or 12. We still crash when we go to bed.
Right. Are they not rebellious still? You've only had them for a few weeks. And is the rebellion gone? Are they really submitted to your authority now and see you as mom and dad?
They're not very rebellious, but they still do push the limits, because they want to see, are you really going to stay there? Are you really going to get rid of me?
And how consistent is your discipline?
Right? Oh, I'm super consistent. And Mark is consistent too. He's so tender, he's such a gentle person that sometimes they'll ask me something and I'll say no or whatever. Whatever they just
they
don't
know
want.
to go
It doesn't
to Mark
mean
next.
it's no. Oh, yes. I'll be like, did she just ask you? Such as he's like, yes, but don't worry, honey, I heard your answer. So I repeated it.
Well, let's talk about that and explore that a little bit. Tanya, yours and Mark's relationship. You've been married for
almost 20 years.
Almost 20 years now. I'm sure there's been, if you're normal, like the rest of us, there's been friction along the way, challenges along the way in any marriage.
Yes.
What has this done to your relationship with Mark?
I would say more than ever, he's really my best friend.
Wow.
And that we can laugh over the dumbest thing. I mean, almost to tears. It's so funny. I could cry thinking about it. Because I really need him. He really needs me. And we really will function well if we're a team. So I would say that that's been the biggest thing for us. Have there been some added arguments? Yeah. And some tense situations, or how are we going to deal with that, or those all come into play. But I think because he trusts me and I trust him to have each other's backs, because we're so outnumbered. Hello.
Right.
Yes.
Right.
So
8 versus 2.
Yeah. When you have that trust that he's got your back and I have his back, we've really relied on the best friend aspect of our relationship.
I think that's amazing, because how do you do that? There are a lot of times, even I only had my 2 children one at a time,
Yes.
14 years apart, and so it was really easy.
Yes.
But there were times where we weren't always in agreement about discipline strategies
Yes.
or parenting strategies.
Yeah.
There have to be some times when you and Mark don't agree,
No,
right?
no, those are there. We do have those times, and he, if it's not a real high tense situation, you know, he can say, Ton, in front of the kids, I don't think we need to worry about that, or didn't you just say? And he'll just gently say something. The other night, I was having a little bit of a breakdown, and he said, you know what? And we were in private, and the kids were all in bed, all of them. And then we talked it out. So we did disagree, but we did it in private. And I really came away with that, like, oh, I just need to fall under his authority in that area.
That's so smart.
Yeah, because
Very wise.
I'm not going to fight him and fight the children.
Right.
And I want to be on his team, and I want him to be on my team.
Right.
So I just
so they
thanked him.
see you as a united front, for
Yes,
sure.
always. Even if I'm wrong or if Mark's wrong, they almost never see it different.
Have you cried in front of the kids before?
Yes, but not because of behavior.
Okay.
Because I think I had a gallbladder attack or something. And I was like crying because it hurt so bad. And so, but not for the crying, adoption crying has always been in private with Mark or with the big boys, actually.
Okay.
Yeah.
Talk to us about the importance of domestic adoption, because a lot
Yes.
of people right now, it's kind of almost the in thing to get your kids from Ethiopia or other places in
Yes.
Africa or Asia, wherever. But
Yes.
you really saw and felt God's leading toward domestic versus international, even
Yes.
though there's obviously a need for both.
Yes, the need is very large. In fact, in our country, on any given day, we may have 1 million children available for adoption.
Wow.
That's just our country on any given day. In Africa, China, any of the other countries combined, the total number of children waiting for adoption is over 150 million children. So the need is very huge internationally versus the need here. Although 1 million is still a lot of children.
Right.
The need is a huge difference. For Mark and I, we couldn't afford to adopt internationally. We see the need internationally, but we couldn't afford it. We couldn't afford to go to another country for a month or even buy the airline tickets, and then we would have had to fundraise for so long. So we stayed local. A big calling that we definitely knew was special to us, to he and I, was that we really felt called to take a sibling group that was separated and reunite them. That was a huge thing. And so there was a few sibling groups that I may have even mentioned to you over the journey, but they weren't separated. And would you believe none of those ever worked out?
Isn't that interesting? That
Yeah.
That's what God laid on your heart.
He laid it, and you know, it's kind of odd because I've never really heard anybody talk about that, but I felt very called that they had to be reunited back together. And so that was neat.
Tanya, if you were to look at your life right now, looking back on these last almost 20 years married to Mark, would you do things differently? Is there anything that you would change about your life?
I feel like if I said yes to that, I would miss out on something else that I know God handed me. So if I said yes to maybe finishing my 1 whole year of college, He wouldn't have handed me Brandon, our oldest. If I would have waited to have Brandon, I wouldn't have had Noah, Gabriel, Zach. See, if I changed any one thing of my past, I wouldn't have the gifts that God provided. So I don't think I would change it. Some of it was crappy too, you know, and hard stuff.
Right.
But then I know that something else wouldn't be there. So I don't know that I would.
Tanya and Marcus Nagler, you guys are doing such an incredible job. You're an encouragement to me, an inspiration to me, and I know to our viewers today. I'm so grateful to God for bringing Tanya across our path today. If you think about becoming a wraparound friend of hers, we'll have her contact information up on the screen for you, because she and Marcus are pretty amazing in what they've done, having 4 biological children, adding 4 more children to the mix who were siblings, and just the neatest part is that they were led by God. So continue to pray for this Nagler family. Continue to pray about your involvement in taking care of orphans and widows, because that is our calling. That's what we're all told to do in Scripture. So Great program today on adoption. Again, Tanya Nagler, thank you for being here with us. Well, coming up, everyone, we're going to be talking to someone who can help guide you to a life-changing adoption story of your own. Keep it here. You're watching Welcome Home. We'll be back.
Hey guys, Jachelle Worthington with your Beauty by God tip. So God blessed me with a beautiful red head. She's 5 years old, feistier than ever, but poor baby, her head hurts so much when I brush her hair. It's a constant struggle. All my mommies out there, you can raise your hand and say it is a battle after they get out of the bathtub. So I want to show you a really fun, so fragrant, you can use it summer or year-round, leave-in conditioner that you can make at home and store. So here we go. The first thing you're gonna need is a spray bottle, preferably something that you can see through to make sure, hey, I know how much I have, I need to make some more. I've already started off and filled it up 1/3 of water. You can use distilled, you can use spring, whatever your preference is, use it. And we've got castor oil, rose water, lavender extract, and jojoba oils. All of those combined together are gonna be phenomenal. So this is what we're gonna do. I started off with jojoba oil. I'm using a tablespoon of that, and I'm gonna put that right into the mixture here. I'm gonna show that to you right there. And then I'm gonna pour some rose water. We're gonna do a 1/2 cup of rose water. I cannot wait. This is gonna smell so good. So we're gonna do that. And then we're gonna also do the lavender. We're gonna put about 5 drops in there. So I'll let you see that. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And we're gonna mix all this fun stuff together. And I'm telling you what, if I don't spill it everywhere, it's gonna be so great. And the castor oil. And that is also gonna be a tablespoon. Hey, if you haven't already done so, please connect with us on Facebook. You can get this recipe and along with following along our shows and seeing when we are on air, so you can connect with us. There you have it. Now we're gonna just put the lid back on and shake it. And guess what? You have yourself a homemade leave-in conditioner. There you go. I'm Jachelle Worthington with your Beauty by God tip. And just remember, God made you beautiful.
Hi, everyone. I know this has been an inspiring program for you, talking about adoption and the importance of that. And I have with us today on Welcome Home a very special guest. Mandy Merchant is with Life for Kids, which is an adoption agency in Winter Park, right here in Winter Park, Central Florida. And she's here to tell us from her perspective what it's all about, adopting maybe a Christian baby or a Christian young child. So let's meet Mandy. Thank you so much for being here with us today, Mandy.
Thank you for having me.
You know, I said Life for Kids and babies and young children, but it's primarily babies, right?
It is, yes. We primarily do infant adoptions here domestically.
Okay, and how do you get these babies, Mandy? Because babies, they always say it's really hard to get a brand new newborn infant, right?
Yes, it is. But you know, all of the babies come to us through birth mothers, through the women that are pregnant and making an adoption plan for their baby.
So how do you minister to a birth mother who knows that she's getting ready to give her child up for adoption? Because I can't, as a mother, I can't imagine anything more selfless. It's a selfless thing to do, but anything more heart-wrenching either.
It is,
So
yeah.
what do you say to that mother?
Well, we say lots of different things. We do counseling with her throughout the time that she's working with us. So they come to us at any point in their pregnancy.
Okay.
It can be before they even find out they're pregnant, when they're suspecting that they're pregnant, or it can be, you know, from the hospital. They've already delivered and they want to make an adoption plan for their baby. So in the beginning, we really do a lot of decision-making counseling with them.
Yeah, because I'm sure there's some who come and they're not really sure that they want to go through with the pregnancy, right? Don't you
Right.
have that option to tell them about the importance of not terminating a pregnancy?
Absolutely, yeah. We do counseling with them on all of their options.
Okay.
So we are a pro-life ministry, so we're able to provide them with education about abortion and side effects of that as well. Talk with them about the realistic things that happen with that, and talk with them about parenting, and talk with them about adoption as well. So we really present all of the options with a pro-life standpoint.
Because when we first met and we were talking, Mandy, you mentioned, I guess I said, it's in Winter Park. Where is this? I've never seen it. And you said, as you're going down I-4, you always see Life for Kids. And I realized that. Yes, I've seen that before, but I didn't really know that it was a Christian adoption agency.
It is, yes. So all of our workers are Christians.
Okay.
We're a pro-life Christian nonprofit ministry. And all of our adoptive parents are Christians as well.
So you require that. Anybody
We
who's
do.
going to adopt a child from you has to be a Christian. How do you determine that?
We actually ask them a lot of questions about it throughout the interview process. The adoptive parents go through the home study process. And we walk with them through that. It is quite a process, several interviews and life summaries that they write. And so we get to know them really well throughout that process. And we ask them lots of questions about what they believe, how they came to believe it.
So you're
lots of
sure?
different questions like that, absolutely.
But you feel real good about it. So, you know, a lot of times, Mandy, someone will be at a real crisis point in their lives before they come to an adoption agency as an adoptive parent wanting to adopt. How long a process is it for a parent wanting to adopt through Life for Kids?
Well, it really depends on God's timing. We always say we can tell you an estimate, but it's all up to the Lord. So once they get their home study completed, which is kind of up to the adoptive parents with how long they take, with how quickly they work through the process, but it can be as short as about 6 weeks.
What?
With getting their home study approved.
Okay.
But once they get their home study approved, we estimate it to be about a year or a year and a half wait. But we've done a placement the day that they were approved. So it really just depends.
Right. God's timing is everything.
Right.
What are the things that you tell an adoptive parent as a part of the counseling? Because it is a little bit different to adopt. You know, we've heard Tanya and some of the challenges that come from having biological children and then bringing adopted children into the mix. What do you counsel people with challenges?
Well, we provide counseling with the adoptive parents throughout the adoption process, after they're matched with a birth mother, and after as well. We do post-placement supervision with them and even keep in contact with them afterwards to address their issues. But part of what's unique about Life for Kids is that throughout the home study process, we actually take them through educating them about adoption, about how to talk to their child about adoption, about how to prepare their other children for adoption. They have to read books and write book reports. And we have adoptive parent meetings where they come together and kind of talk about different issues that can arise. So I think we do a good job with kind of educating them and preparing them for raising a child that's adopted.
And do you oftentimes have adoptive parents come back to you and need continued counseling once it's done?
Sometimes we do, issues arise throughout, and especially in those relationships that they maintain contact with their birth mother, different things can come up along the way. So we're actually available to work with them as long after as they want, and along with the birth mothers too. We do counseling with birth moms for as long after the placement as they want.
What do you find is maybe one of the biggest challenges or maybe heartaches that a birth mother has to face? Does she have separation anxiety? What, I don't know what you even call it, but is it difficult for a biological mother?
Yeah, for most of these women, it's the most difficult decision that they'll ever make. It's the most amazing and selfless decision that I've ever seen a human being make in my life. It amazes me every time I get to see it. But she is choosing adoption because she loves her baby and she wants what's best for her baby more so than the things that she wants for herself. And every time I get to see that, it just blows me away. So we just get to love her and support her through that process.
How common is it, Mandy, for someone to want the biological mother to continue to be a part of that family and that relationship? Because I have a really good friend from college whose niece gave up her babies. She had twin girls for adoption, and that adopted mother continues to let her, as the biological mother, have a relationship with the kids, which I just think is amazing. Does that happen very often?
It does.
Does
yes.
it?
It does, yes. There's different levels of openness in adoption, and that's dependent upon what the birth mother's wanting and also what the adoptive parents are wanting. But
so do you recommend that there would be that open kind of adoption?
Our agency actually requires the adoptive parents to be at least semi-open. So that means that they're sending pictures and letters to the agency, and we send them on to the birth mother throughout 18 years. So that the birth mother and the birth parents never have to wonder how the child's doing. They'll always know that the adoptive parents are fulfilling their word of loving the child and raising them in a Christian environment.
Oh, Mandy, that's so important. Now, you were telling me also that Life for Kids has another part of your building, which is a pregnancy crisis center. Tell us about that.
Yeah, so Life for Kids is also connected to a Center for Women, and a Center for Women is a pregnancy resource center. So again, we do all Christian-based counseling there, but we are a pro-life ministry there as well, and we provide free pregnancy tests, free ultrasounds, and free ongoing counseling if they need that. And in addition to that, what's kind of neat is that we also have material services available for anyone that's parenting their child and needs extra help. So diapers, wipes, clothing, formula, anything that people need, they can just walk in and get as they need it.
Right. Mandy, we're just about out of time, but I wanted to give you an opportunity to just say something to either adoptive parents that are out there or a biological mom who is really not understanding and knowing what to do. Maybe she's in the middle of a crisis pregnancy herself. What would be your words of wisdom or advice for someone listening to you today?
Well, for birth parents, I would say contact us and just let us talk to you. You know, we meet with anyone who's even considering adoption. We tell them in the first meeting, we put no pressure on you. We are here to help you and support you regardless of what you choose in the end. We just want to be able to be here for you and help guide you in that decision. And for any adoptive parent or anyone who's, you know, even considering adoption, I would say pray about it and maybe contact us and set up a free meeting, because that is something that I believe the Lord puts in your heart, and that's a God-given desire. So definitely pursue that if that's in your heart.
Oh, Mandy Merchant, thank you so much for being here with us today. Life for Kids viewers, if it's something that is tugging on your heartstrings, maybe you're in a position where you want to adopt, or maybe you're in a position where you need to pray about giving up your baby for adoption. Wherever you are in whatever point of your journey, know that Life for Kids, that contact information is up there for you. This is an alternative, a Christian adoption agency that we would direct you to that website and to that telephone number that's up there for you today. So it's been a rich program about adoption. I'm so grateful to God for bringing Mandy across our path today.
Hey everyone, it's Courtney Shaw in the kitchen today with Whitney Miller. Whitney, it's so great to have you.
Thank you for having me. I love this time of the year. Fall is like one of my favorite times. I got married last fall, so it's just that special time where, I don't know, you want like comfort style food.
That's right, and we love comfort food in our home too, and we're big on chili. So today we're gonna be cooking white chicken chili, right?
Yes, so it's a little bit different and even a little healthier because we're using chicken. And I always like to put a little spin, but also want to feel like I'm eating something good for me, but like filling and hearty. So like I'm getting something out of it. Like it's good for my husband, it's good for me, and you can come to the Coop and have it as well.
Awesome, so tell us a little bit about your new role at the Coop too.
Yeah, so it's really exciting because my roots are definitely Southern. And so to be able to come into the Coop and give people a taste of my cooking, I will feature some things from my new book that just released.
Yeah, congratulations on that
Thank
too.
you.
And you're a young, accomplished chef. How old were you when you won MasterChef?
22.
Wow, girl, that's amazing.
Yes. So I know I still look a little young, but I am married now, and a lot has happened since winning. And I'm really excited about this new opportunity, the new role, and to meet a lot of new people in this community as well.
Well, you've got friends here at Good Life 45, so I'm excited
you.
to learn how to make this twist on white chicken chili.
And it's really easy, and you'll see all the colors really work well with like that white. This is really fun to make, even if you're doing like a white Christmas, but fall is perfect for this chili. So I'm gonna use a little bit of olive oil.
And you said you like to cook with olive oil a lot. Why do you cook with olive oil?
My grandmother cooked with, butter and canola oil and those kind of oils. And I just thought, to add a little bit of that healthier twist, make you feel like a little better, using olive oil. And I do olive oil biscuits, olive oil in my pie crust.
Oh, that's awesome. I can't wait to try that one out too.
So this is so on medium, so it's definitely hot. I have onion, and I like to dice everything up really small so that it's all like uniform.
And that's good for children too that are eating this, so they're not choking on any big pieces of anything too. So that's good.
It is. I'm gonna grab this spoon. And you just want to cook this until it's soft. But yeah, and also if your kids are like my dad growing up, he did not like onions and bell peppers. And so what I would do is, this is a good tip, is even if they would see it, like your kids or husbands would see that, use a grater and grate those items, and then you also don't have the cleanup of a knife and a chopping block.
It's camouflage cooking at its finest, right? That's awesome. Good tip, Whitney.
Once this starts kind of softening, we'll use garlic. And again, this is another item. How can you not like garlic? My dad did not like garlic. So growing up, I'm like, how do I not cook with garlic? So I just, again, like use a zester, something that's really fun. And if you can't see it, I don't know, he's like, it wasn't there.
There's something about the aroma of anytime somebody's sauteing onions or celery or carrots or those type of vegetables, it just brings back that nostalgic feel. And I mean, this is an ultimate comfort food. And even maybe for tailgating too, everybody loves making chili. So this is a good twist on that.
So again, this is just gonna cook up until it's kind of soft. And this would be perfect for a family if they want to make this on the go. Put this in a crock pot.
I was going to ask you about the crock pot question because my generation of moms are so busy and everybody goes to the crock pot. But would you compromise the flavor and the texture if you did that?
For chili, I wouldn't think so. I mean, just because everything is kind of all going in one pot, and again, that's the ease of it too. It's just a one pot chili, a one crock pot.
Yeah.
So I could definitely see that would work perfectly fine. So then we have the white beans.
Okay.
These are cannellini beans. These are 2 cans.
And can you use any kind of white beans for this chili?
You know, I also like butter beans.
Yeah, that's the southern side of you, girl. That's good.
So they have even like the smaller ones, so that would work perfect for this. So those work well. And then this doesn't have like too much heat, but it's green chili, so it's a mild green chilies. And you can just get it in the can, and you can find it in like that Mexican section in the supermarket. And then the flavoring, so to bring out just like a little something, brighten it up, is lime juice.
Oh, that's a good little twist. And that's that Hispanic twist to it. That's good.
I'm just gonna shake this up
Do you want me to stir that all for you?
Yes.
I'm good in the
I have
kitchen,
my
girl.
ladle. I'm ready to serve it up.
Hey, that's good.
And then we have cumin. So again, cumin is a little smoky.
That reminds me of making tacos, right? That smell in the kitchen.
So it is kind of like you get those like Tex-Mex flavors in here. So I have the ground cumin. I have cayenne, and again,
Little
if you have
kick, that's the Four Rivers.
little
Good thing is the kick, right? You gotta always have that in
some
there.
salt for flavor.
Do you use sea salt too, Whitney?
I like sea salt. That's what I use at home. And then you can also use kosher, but again, remember, that is a lot bigger granules, so you have to watch out. That was some chicken stock. And then to tighten this whole thing up, this is something John taught me, John Rivers. So masa, it adds just like a heartiness, and all the sweetness of that masa really pairs well.
It's kind of like doing flour and water. It's like making a roux, right? To thicken something up, okay?
It does. It kind of brings us all together.
Very
so
good.
this, you would just put a lid on and just cook it for about like 30 to 40 minutes. Really, the more it cooks low and slow, the flavors begin to build.
That's my dad's thing, low and slow. He'll start something at like 3 o'clock in the morning. We're like, how's this meat falling apart? Well, he started at 3 o'clock in the morning, so that makes a big difference.
So you ready to try the finished product?
Girl, bring it on. Let's do it.
The magic of TV, of course.
Yeah.
So this is the chili after it has cooked down, and you'll see it is definitely hearty.
And you pre-cook the chicken, right? And then you throw it in.
Yes, so the chicken went in as well, and it was, what is good is, again, using like that leftover chicken from the baked chicken, like whole chicken, or if you're really in a pinch, use like a rotisserie chicken.
Yeah, and shred it. I've done that a time or two. It's all good. Okay. No one will ever know, right?
You have to put it over the top with the topping. So again, the color palette, the white, we have a little bit of pepper jack cheese, and then a little fresh
I see a little green in there.
cilantro for color.
Awesome. Well, if you want to, I got a spoon there for you too. We got to dig in and try this.
Okay.
Well, cheers to comfort food, right? To fall.
Yes.
And our Southern Belle in the kitchen today. Amazing.
Really,
textures, flavors, all of that. Whitney, thank you so much.
Thank you
for showing us your Southern comfort food today.
Yes.
And if you want this recipe, you can find it on our Facebook page or go to tv45.org, and we'll highlight your cookbook as well.
Thank you.
Thanks so much. We'll be right back after this.
Thanks so much for joining us today on this really important program on adoption. I want to end our program with a note of hope about this very topic. I don't talk about this very much anymore, but when I was a young mom and had my first daughter, I yearned for a big family, for more children. My husband and I tried for 13 years before we conceived our second child. Those were lean years of roller coaster emotions. I prayed fervently for another child, but was disappointed month after month for all those years. We went through several processes of trying to adopt, but those doors were closed time after time. 24 years ago, it was not as common as it is today to hop on a plane to Russia or Africa to rescue an orphan. So we simply waited, and we waited, and we waited. Proverbs 13:12 says, "Hope deferred makes the heart sick, but a longing fulfilled is a tree of life." I can so identify with the heart sickness of losing hope. I want you to hear from today's program that we are all recipients of hope. Hope in Christ, and it needn't be deferred. It's available to all of us. So no matter what our circumstances, whether we're orphans or widowed, married, single, divorced, rejected by our society, whatever, we are adopted as children of God into His family. And for that, we should be grateful, joyful, and totally at peace. Trees of life, like the verse says. Well, that's our note of hope for today. Thanks so much for joining us, and God bless you.